Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Friday, October 24th, 2025. There is so much water that we are all swimming in right now, and you have to find ways to ground yourself. This is an excellent time to trust your intuition, to manifest, to really listen to yourself and go with the flow. And there is very supportive energy because we have a grand trine in water, and that's involving, right now we've got Mercury, which is the planet of learning, communication, perspective. It can represent commerce, it can represent transportation. Mercury is transiting in the fixed water sign of Scorpio, and it's forming a trine to Jupiter. It made a beautiful angle to Jupiter, the luckiest planet, which is currently in the sign of Cancer, and that happened earlier today at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then it proceeds to trine Saturn, which is how you anchor things. Saturn is in Pisces, and it has been since the very beginning of September. It will remain there through February 13th. And Mercury making a good angle to Saturn helps to support and structure what you're trying to create. Saturn is in the sign of dreams and imagination. And again, Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is the planet, well, it's the modern ruler of Pisces. It also represents the dream. And it can be it's so creative and so intuitive and psychic and imaginative, but it is sometimes really hard to pin down, and Neptunian energy can make you feel very lost, very directionless, and going in many directions. Maybe you're swimming this way and you're swimming that way. And Scorpio, we currently have 3 points transiting in Scorpio. We have the sun just entered Scorpio on October 22nd, and it will remain there through November 21st. And the sun in Scorpio is about getting to the bottom of things. It's really seeking deep connections and not about frivolity. And then you've got Mercury and Mars transiting together. Well, Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio, the ancient ruler of Scorpio. And Mercury and Mars together can be very abrasive, but it can also be excellent for getting down, uncovering things and really getting to the bottom of things. And if you do have something that requires a lot of focus, Mars loves being in Scorpio. It is in its dignity, and it is fearless. So if you really need to speak your truth, since Mercury is communication, this gives you the confidence, the drive, the ambition to get up and stand up for yourself. But then we have the part of the fact that Neptune and Saturn are both in Pisces. Neptune just returned on the day that the sun ingressed into Scorpio, and Saturn's been there since September 1st. Well, that's very foggy energy. It can be very psychic, incredibly creative. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, and many people that are artists, musicians, singers, creative of all forms, have strong Neptune and or Piscean energy or strong 12th house energy, because in the chart, the 12th house represents Pisces, and Pisces is the 12th sign. And it's interesting how, in many ways, we have been for a few months, really since the midsummer, experiencing a flash of insight of what the future holds, of possibilities opening up. Neptune ingressed into into the cardinal fire sign of Aries on March 30th, which was the day after the final eclipse in the sign of Aries. Saturn then ingressed into Pisces on May 24th, and it returned to Aries. I keep saying Pisces, pardon me. It entered Aries. There's very strong Neptune, so I have a little bit of an excuse, but not a lot. Saturn entered Aries on May 24th, returned to Pisces on September 1st. It will remain in Pisces through February 13th. Neptune just returned this week on October 22nd. It's at the final degree of the zodiac, and that encapsulates all of the 12 signs, all of the 11 preceding signs, what they represent, what they mean. I know 2 individuals that were born on March 20th, and in their case, the time of day, their sun is at the final degree of Pisces, which again is the very final degree of the zodiac. And they are so wise. They are both artists. They're very talented, and they both are very good in metaphysics. They both do astrology and I believe tarot and other forms of healing. But they are incredibly versatile in all of the magic, spiritually, creatively, and they're really kind people. And they've both been really good to me, and I met them during Saturn and Pisces. So it's, it's a very difficult degree, and I want to remind you all, I've talked a lot about this, that Neptune remains at that last degree. It doesn't travel back. It remains at 29 degrees of Pisces. That is a fixed star known as Shiad, and it can be associated with self-undoing and sabotage, suicide, and accidents. And with Neptune at the last degree of Pisces, there can be a lot of heavy weather patterns. There can be a lot to do with flooding or tsunamis or just extreme weather. And also, again, my biggest focus is mental health. And Saturn is going to station direct on the day of Thanksgiving in the United States, which is November 27th. It's going to station at 25 degrees and 9 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. So it's going to be within 4 degrees of Neptune. And then they're going to meet up directly and exactly at the very first degree of Aries, new beginnings, on February 20th at 0 degrees and 45 minutes of the cardinal, action-oriented, enthusiastic fire sign of Aries. With that said, we are in many ways evaluating what we're letting go of, what we need to rethink. This is a call to faith in whatever that means to you. If that's connecting with compassionate people who have the same kind of values and are helping you in a very difficult time in the world, wrapping up some karma, trying to connect to something that still reminds you that dreams are very possible, they are very real, and yes, this is a very uncertain time, but the astrology for 2026, again, we had a lineup that gave us a preview with Saturn and Neptune at the very early degrees of Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac, helping to carve a new dream. And they were working in harmony with Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, where we have 3 points right now, and we are in Scorpio season. This is a very deep sign that wants to bond and merge with people whom they trust on the deepest level. They want to heal. They want to help others heal as long as they trust them. And they want to uncover information. They want to learn about what makes people tick. And again, we have so much focus on mental health right now. That's going to be a big theme, and many of us will struggle with it, whether or not we normally have issues with it. There's going to be a lot of, there's like a thick fog that we're all We're all navigating. We're all trying to push through. And right now, it's more of that Pisces theme word, that key word rather, of surrender. And that doesn't mean not to act, not to stand in your truth. It doesn't mean that at all. But it means that there may be some things that are unclear right now, where you really don't know if what you're doing is effective. There will be some things that are not mapped out for you, but you've got to trust your inner self. You got to listen to yourself. You got to really stand up for what you believe is true. Mercury and Mars are in a water sign, which is very emotional, but this is not wimpy energy. This is very strong energy. Even though you may feel so drained, so scared, or angry, or all of those things, Mercury and Mars together can definitely get you angry, but they can make you effective as long as you realize that Mars is impulse. It can be being too impulsive. Don't jump on things. Don't overreact. It's easy to say. But this is good also if you're feeling like you want to tune out with a strong Piscean energy or with what's happening right now. Well, this is good energy for getting things done. And there's going to be a grand trine in water through the middle of December. And a grand trine is a triangle. It's when three points are 120 degrees apart. So right now we've got Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, and they're trining Jupiter and Saturn. We just had Mercury trine Jupiter, the luckiest planet, early today at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That can give optimism. Mercury did form a difficult aspect to Chiron, the wounded healer, earlier today. And that can pronounce what you feel, where the pain is, where you are not able to face it. It can be very, very strong stuff coming up. And Jupiter, the luckiest planet, squared Chiron, the wounded healer, on October 23rd. And that's going to happen again on December 21st on the winter solstice, and that's going to be right at the world axis at 22 degrees cardinal. Jupiter will be at 22 degrees of Cancer, and Chiron, which represents vulnerability and wounds and just feeling a lot of pain, maybe that you haven't dealt with. It could be very early life pain. In Aries, which is so much about ego, feeling so vulnerable and exposed. And that will happen on the winter solstice on December 21st, and a final time on July 1st of 2026. And that's when they will be in Leo and Taurus. Jupiter will be in Leo, and Eris will then be at the very beginning of Taurus. But right now, this is about finding the courage to be confident in self in a time where you have to be strong because things could seem very uncertain, very bleak, and yet it's very manifesting and magnetizing energy. Try to do things that elevate that energy for you. Chant, listen to music, burn Palo Santo and get rid of negative energy. I remember in 2020, I was doing a lot of readings because a lot of people were home, and I was keeping a bowl of salt by my desk. I saw something in Feng Shui about that, and it was really helpful. It was getting rid of negative energy. And, going to the ocean if you're near it is definitely good. Taking Epsom salt baths, sea salt baths, using more magnesium, drinking a lot of water, doing healthy things, using tiger's eye to ground. That's a good grounding crystal. Finding ways to be creative and connect to that dream. But Saturn in Pisces, it's going to be there through the middle of February. That is, about taking responsibility of what you need to release. And there are I've been hearing so much about sudden loss, and that's not just the eclipses, because we're definitely out of eclipse season now. That is also, I think, Saturn at the last degree of Pisces. That's now Neptune joining that story. Pisces is a sign of endings, and this is for people that are vulnerable, it's just it can make a person weak in a minute. It can lower your immune system, that strong Neptunian energy. And again, people that are dealing with depression or anxiety or addiction, this is very hard energy. And I think to use the grand trine where Mercury and Mars are working in tandem with Jupiter in Cancer. That's really expansive energy of up-leveling your optimism. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. It's very lucky, but it's also opening doors and expanding things through your feelings, through trusting your instincts, trusting your gut. And with Mercury and Scorpio, this is so perceptive. Mercury and Scorpio really sees through people. Mars and Scorpio really gets things done, and it is fearless. And then you have Black Moon Lilith, which is very independent, but also can be, kind of combative in itself. Black Moon Lilith will be in Scorpio through December 19th. It's also at the last degrees of Scorpio. Reminds me a little bit of Eris in the energy, but it's about being independent. It is definitely, I think, a bit of a wounded but strong energy with it. Black Moon Lilith is also trining Jupiter, the luckiest planet, and Saturn, the planet of structure and what you're trying to anchor. Neptune, the dream, what you are trying to bring to life that you really love. And we have that energy of Jupiter squaring Chiron right now. That's a wounded energy. But tomorrow we're going to have the Sun in Scorpio forms a challenging aspect to the North Node of Destiny. And that occurs at 6:59 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But that could still bring strong connections or opportunities, even though it's not completely easy energy. Maybe it gets things going. Maybe you're meant to do something that you didn't want to do, and it's fortuitous. We've got tomorrow Mercury trine Saturn. That's really good for strong communication, good for business, good for getting things done. And that's at 5:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. On the 26th, we've got Venus forming a sesquiquadrant to Uranus, the planet of instability and genius. And that's at 3:59 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That could be chaotic, and again, we still have Mercury and Mars traveling together until Mercury leaves the sign of Scorpio on the 29th and ingresses into the sign of Sagittarius. So that could be a bit, that could get things going. It could be very innovative and creative, but it could be a bit chaotic with partnerships. And early this morning, we had the Sun square Pluto. That could definitely bring major endings or power struggles. Pluto is out of bounds through November 23rd, and that means that it exceeds the Sun's declination, and the Sun's path by declination, and it just is out of control. It exaggerates the qualities of Pluto, which can be incredibly intense, and it's all about power struggles, but also about transformation. And these aspects with Chiron, the wounded healer, are about transformation. And we're going to have, so Mercury trining Saturn is positive. We've got on the 28th, Mars is going to trine Jupiter, and that's a really helpful energy for feeling optimistic about what you need to achieve, and that will occur at 2:19 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on October 28th. But we have lucky supportive energy with those 3 points. Again, Mercury and Mars in Scorpio through the end of October. This will repeat with Mercury because Mercury is going to retrograde on November 9th, initially in the sign of Sagittarius, and then it's going to return to Scorpio on November 18th. So then it revisits this grand trine. It stations direct on, on December 11th. And then it leaves the sign of, it leaves the sign of, stations direct on November 29th. And then it leaves the sign of Scorpio on December 11th. But we've got Black Moon Lilith there through December 19th. We've got Mercury, part of this grand trine. Right now, Mars is part of the grand trine. And Jupiter is trining Saturn. For the month of November, they will be at 25 degrees of Cancer and Pisces directly. And that's really positive energy. The two clashed in the sky. They squared one another when Jupiter was still in Gemini, and that was on June 15th of this year. So now they're in support of one another, and then they will be trining any point that enters Scorpio. And right now it is Mercury and Mars. Mercury will come back. Black Moon Lilith is also part of this grand trine, being fierce and being strong in tough waters. So I wish you a lot of luck and take care. Bye-bye.